Jesse, we are here. We are at the podcast, Mr. Therapist and the Counselor. I'm excited to do this with you. My name is Manny Romero, and I'm Mr. Therapist. You want to introduce yourself, Jess?
I will do that. Yes, I'm Jesse O, counselor, certified addiction counselor. KDAC 2 is my certification. And yeah, came down here to San Clemente. A little like backdrop, little nostalgia. Not big. Well, actually, I love nostalgia. I always think about Tony Soprano in The Sopranos. He mentions nostalgia is the worst form of conversation.
Ooh.
But I'm taking it back. And hell, I just brought up The Sopranos already.
What do you mean by that? The worst form of conversation?
I think it's because nostalgia is we're always looking back. We're not really like being in the present.
Yeah,
it's like you remember the good old times instead of looking at the times like right now that we're in.
Yeah. Like that episode from The Office with, what's his name? The guy with the anger problems. He's like, I wish we knew when the good old days were.
Yeah, good old Andy was talking
Andy,
about that.
yeah,
That's a real famous quote. I mean, there's a shit ton of quotes
Yeah.
from The Office you could take. But I was driving down from San Clemente. Luckily, there was no rain today. But last week, when we sat down for the first time to talk about doing this podcast, it made me reflect, got me nostalgic about the first time that we met. We worked at a treatment center down here in San Clemente.
That's right.
A little sketchy treatment center.
Which most are. I mean, most are.
Yeah, I think at least 2013, right?
Yeah.
That's when we first met. We I can't remember the first time we actually met.
Yeah.
But we were in the same place at the same
place,
time.
That was my first mental health job, actually.
Yeah, was it? Yeah. So and then that was like the start for you, like the beginning of you being a therapist. So like I wanted to ask you, like, tell me about like what was going on there. Like what was the drive in your journey? Or I mean, actually, where were you like in your journey?
Yeah, so I think 2013, I had just graduated from UCSB, got my bachelor's in psychology. And to be honest with you, like school was never in my plans. Like it's just something I knew my parents wanted me to do, but I never really believed that I could really go far in school. So when I finally graduated from UCSB, I was incredibly like happy, like excited, ready to take on a job. And I realized that with a psychology degree, no one's gonna hire you. Like you can't really do anything. So I entered into this treatment center, working as a house manager.
Yeah, your house manager. What like people don't know like the treatment world like we know it like front to back, but like what is a house manager like working in treatment? What does that mean?
You're kind of like a companion or like a babysitter, so they got a bunch of houses with clients who are working on their sobriety,
right?
And they're newly sober. You got like hours sober to 30, 60, or 90 days sober. And so you really have to monitor the house and just make sure that nobody goes out, brings in drugs, make sure that everyone's taking their medication right, taking them to groups, to treatment, to see a therapist, and back to the house. And so they're living in this house 24/7. It was like actually the first experience I ever had in addiction field or anything like that, which was just a crazy experience for me. Just
could I ask you at that point, Ted, like working in the field, like did you know much about addiction? Obviously through school, right? You were like somewhat familiar, or was it still
not
like
really, though,
new territory for you?
It was really new. The only experience I had with addiction was in my family. Like my uncle, he at the time he was still alive, but he committed suicide, and he had issues with addiction. I also have a bunch of people in my family who struggled with alcoholism. And so that's the only experience that I had. Other than that, no. Like I had the biggest stigma or the biggest like, what do you call it? Like just ideas of what an addict was.
Right. Misunderstandings, too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of cool. Like it really gave me this experience of looking into like what addiction actually is, who it affects, and how it affects people. Yeah. And so I was really early. I wasn't even a therapist. I was literally like I get my feet wet, my hands dirty for the very first time. Yeah. Where were you at in your career at that time?
Man, it's crazy you said career, right? I didn't think I'd make a career out of this. Actually, I probably didn't think I'd make a career out of anything. I just got back. So 2013, I was working. That was the first treatment center. I had just spent a year uh, in Indiana, Lafayette, Indiana, I was sobering up.
Okay.
I had my demons and issues with drugs and alcohol. So I just moved back to Southern California after spending almost a year out in Lafayette, Indiana, getting my shit together.
Oh damn! How many days were you sober when you started working there?
I would say it was probably a year. Let's see here. No, it was less than a year.
Oh
I
damn!
think it was like August. Well, August 29th is whenever I got sober in 2013. So sorry, it was actually 2014. I screwed up the
Yeah,
timeline a
yeah.
little bit. It was 2014 out in San Clemente. But I came back. I had to take my certification. I still wasn't certified as an addiction counselor yet. So I came out here. I came back around like early 2014. Um, Took my test, took my exam, got certified. You could work in the field at like you don't have to be a KDAC. You can be there's
Okay.
other ways to like get certified and
Get
work.
supervised or work
Yeah,
under
you can do other
somebody.
so
Yeah.
but wanted to get a KDAC. That was a big goal for me as well because that was something I the reason I mentioned or talked to you about why I got into the field was that I was like trying to figure out how can I solve my problem. Now, reflecting back on that, I realized like you need a lot of help in solving your own problems. And a
Sure.
lot of times we can't figure out ourselves, and that's why people go to therapy or go to groups or go to treatment centers to start to get some self-reflection through like talking and
Yeah,
sharing.
but I feel like as a in a field where you help people, like it makes you look at yourself though. It makes you like work on yourself. So I
Yeah,
can understand that, like
yeah.
how it's almost like through the education and the help you provide others, like you yourself are getting a lot of help
Oh
out of it
yeah,
too.
I'm very selfish to this day. Like
Yeah.
when I'm working with people, around with groups, I say this so often. Like I'm getting so much from them as well as like hopefully I'm providing things for them or information or just guidance. But like it's life,
Yeah.
continuing to learn, continuing to progress. So so yeah, coming back out here, getting my certification, and then like working. That was pretty much my first job sober in the field. So
Okay.
I actually was living in I was living in Victorville, California at the time. So I was driving all the way from Victorville to San Clemente sometimes,
Dang.
which is like a pretty shitty drive. But my intention was like I wanted to reestablish myself out here in Orange County. So got the job at that treatment center in San Clemente where you worked, where we
Yeah.
first met, and I we could go into details about this treatment center and how like questionable it
How
was, but
shitty it was.
yeah, but it was still like one of the best experiences because as a counselor, as throughout this podcast, like I sat down in a room with a bunch of therapists, and I'm kind of how I felt like in life. I felt like I really didn't belong with all these just a high level like with degrees and experience.
All these nerds, right?
Yeah, all these fucking nerds everywhere, right? I'm like, how's this cool guy? No, I was still rocking a leather jacket back then. Um, but yeah, I sat in this room and I was like, I didn't belong, but I was like, I'm gonna belong.
Yeah.
So I just really like, I talked to people and just absorbed what they were doing. And yeah, that was like the start of my journey in this field.
That's
So
awesome, man. That's
yeah,
powerful too for you to step up and like, people are I think people are cool like if you give yourself an opportunity to open up and to connect and
yeah,
because I've been in a position like that before where it's like it's really easy to just go into your shell, go into yourself and
yeah,
just like disconnect from everybody and go
yeah,
in, do your job and leave and not make connections, not make friends, not
right.
yeah.
A real character defect still for me present day is like humility or asking for help, but that was a great moment of me just being
Yeah.
humble, even though that part of me of like not wanting to like ask for help because like I said I didn't belong, but like I was like I've got to get better, I want to get better, these people know things that I don't.
Yeah.
So and I think that's really great, kind of reflecting on the learning process of what I brought
Yeah.
up.
So
So
would you say you became a counselor, a K-Day counselor, drug and alcohol counselor because of you wanting to figure out sobriety?
yeah, I figure out not sobriety is very important. It's a huge part of it, but I just also wanted to understand, I guess, the human condition, my condition.
Okay.
Um, so I that was yeah, that was probably it right there. And that's something that until the day that I die, I'm going to be working on. Um, but yeah, that was like the drive. It was like with sobriety, but then also like the mental health aspect. if it's anxiety, depression, negative self-talk.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's kind of a worldwide issue present day. I mean,
Yeah.
the self-help movement is it's gigantic, but it's still I think it's still very like unknown in a lot of ways.
That's
So
so interesting to me though, because like, what even made you think? Because that's I don't know if that's a normal trajectory for someone who like is struggling with addiction to want to get into the field. Is that just
yeah,
a normal thing, or did someone have an influence on you to tell you like, hey, like you should look into this? Or
I if I had to sit right here right now and reflect on that, I don't. I knew that I wasn't right, and or felt like my thinking wasn't all that right.
right?
So I wanted to improve that. I
Yeah.
didn't. So I no, there wasn't really anybody that pointed me in that direction. It's funny that I said that I wanted to figure out myself. I've sat in multiple job interviews and I've said that they're like, well, why do you want to be a counselor? And I'll say, well, yeah, because I'm trying to figure out me. And often the response will be like, oh, that's what like a lot of therapists say.
Oh,
And so I
nice.
always thought that was quite fascinating as well.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think I think just throughout time in my experience, but that was my initial drive. It's just like I want to be better, and I think I still looked around with a lot of people in my life that I loved, and I still felt very disconnected.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, regarding like what we're doing today, like
Yeah.
our I guess our mission statement, our drive, like why talk about why we came together to like put this podcast together. Why are we doing
Yeah.
um, Mr. Therapist and the Counselor? What's the meaning behind all this?
Well, I think like you said, we met at this treatment center, and we actually worked together for quite a while
Yeah,
and got to know each other pretty well. And I have a lot of respect for you and for what you do.
thanks,
I
man.
think you're
Back
a
at
really
you.
creative person, and
Yeah,
you have a good heart. You want to
yeah.
help people, and you have a talent with that. So,
Can you say more nice shit?
yeah, of
Okay,
course.
keep going.
And I want to. I guess I just think that like I think I told you this at one point. Like we got to do something together.
Yes.
Like I think just I know that I'll grow doing something with you.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I want to help people. I know you want to help people. And I think like the very foundation of why we're doing this is to like to figure out how we could help more people.
Yeah.
To figure out how we could talk about, stuff that maybe people don't talk about or there's a lot of mental health podcasts out there, but like we could put our own spin, our own version, our own language onto things
Yeah.
because I feel like we're both professionals in the mental health field, but we're also two dudes who just
Mm-hmm.
like we can connect with people well. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
not like on our high horse, like
No.
using big ass words to describe mental
Big
health
ass words. Yeah.
conditions.
Big ass words still throw
Yeah.
me off, dude. I just like saying big ass all the time. So on top of everything, anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why, like, I feel like we can create some chemistry, some magic. You know what? I don't think I ever told you this, but um, one time when I was first running groups at the second shitty treatment center we were at,
Oh, we have a
uh,
streak. Hopefully, this ain't a shitty podcast, right? Or this is like
yeah, no, no,
it's gonna mean
there
something.
were
So
lessons we learned in
yeah,
those. Yeah, you were supervising a group that I. Oh no, no, I was watching, observing you run a group because
yeah,
I wanted to learn from you. You've
yeah.
done this. You had some experience. I was just starting, and I remember like I said, you got a lot of talent in the room, and I remember like butting in and like adding something or like challenging you on something. I don't remember what it
Yeah.
was, and a client like was in there, and they reached out to me like maybe like 4 months after like they graduated from the
Uh
program,
huh.
and they pointed like, "Hey, I got a lot of respect for you because you challenged Jesse, like, cause you were like the God counselor, right? They're like, you was like that's your boss, and you challenged him, and I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
so I don't know, I just felt like
yeah,
just saying that because I feel like we can add some. We just together we can make an impact on people
right.
like that. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? And like someone took something from that, and they
yeah,
were like, man, I can if you could do that, I could do this, right? And
right.
so I just feel like, yeah, we got some chemistry. We can create something cool with this. Yeah.
Yeah,
How about you? Anything? Why did you decide to do this? Like, why do you, the vision or the purpose of doing a podcast?
yeah. I think that I think two different perspectives, but like same, like the same goal.
Yeah.
I think we uh, two different styles. kind of just to like reinforce what you just said right now, I just think we could really bring something very unique to the table and like not this. I'm not co-signing any bullshit on this. This is truth for me. Like I feel like what we do individually or working in groups with people that are struggling on whatever it is, I think we really do have like some type of like magic, and I think it'd be awesome to like spread that
Yeah.
and make it a little bit bigger. And no, I appreciate you sharing that story. No, you never told me that story. And no, but it's cool because I think this is the importance about this as well is like is challenging people. I think one thing I'll say, like I have a couple like cliches in group, which I don't try to do that, but sometimes like this shit's so good, I gotta put it on a bumper sticker
Yeah.
one day. But do people still rock bumper stickers? Anyways, but I was like, life is not a level playing field, but in the rooms they are. And when I say in the rooms, I mean group therapy. Everybody's like equal. They have the same goal, I believe. Even a facilitator, we're trying to like bring them up to this certain just maybe self-confidence and finding some meaning and
Yeah.
purpose. And yeah, I think together what we talk about and then down the way like bring on other people that can help us as well to
Yeah.
just talk about things in addiction, mental health, relationships, being a man, whatever the topics, different. Yeah, I think we have just a
Yeah.
plethora of things.
Yeah. I think like our perspectives are our perspectives, and there's different people who are going to have different perspectives,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so I want to invite those in as well.
yeah.
I'm glad you said it's an equal playing field in the rooms, because I feel like I want that effect on whoever's listening to
Right.
the podcast,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whoever like submits a question, or whoever
yeah.
like just wants to interact with us.
Right,
Like yeah, like that's the same intent I would have for anybody who
right,
like wants to just hear what we have to say. It's like, yeah, I want to hear what you got to say too,
right.
right? And
Yeah. Listen, it's hard to be a human being, right? So, like, I'm gonna contradict myself probably 100 times on these podcasts if we get to like 100 like
yeah,
episodes, and I make mistakes daily. I'm wrong so often, even though I won't admit to half of those wrongs, but I'm trying to. So, the point of this process, this podcast, is to invite the conversation, just try to get better, and like you said, perspective. I'll share mine, you share yours,
right,
and let's see where we can go with this thing.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
Cool.
No, exactly, man. Well, cool, dude. We got our first show
I think it's
down.
a wrap, dude. That was pretty
Yeah,
decent.
it
All right.
was.
So one in
Yeah,
the can. So,
exactly.
all right, man.
Cool, man.